without any further ado, let's get going. Larry, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, what I wanted to talk about was that at the Course Director Development Committee meeting in Las Vegas, we spent an entire day working on looking through what we currently have for Course Director Development programs and how they were working and which ones were working and what we needed to do to change and improve. So I'm going to pause there and ask, can you hear me fine?
What?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Our internet connection here has been a little fluky, so if at any point in time I break up or sound weird, pause me and let me know, okay?
I don't want to break up.
Tough. So, so the first thing that we looked at was, the first thing we talked about was our current programs at Harmony University. And we feel that the programs that we're currently offering at Harmony University are very strong, and we have a lot of really good leadership training and a lot of good vocal pedagogy. I mean, really all the nuts and bolts to being a barbershopper. We're feeling like the Harmony University offerings are pretty strong. Do we have somebody just join?
Yeah, Russell's here.
Hi, Russ.
How you doing?
Welcome, Russ.
Good.
Good.
So the one thing that we feel that we come up a little bit short on, but it really is the best we can do under the circumstances is working on conducting techniques, because what we currently do is we have between 16 to 18 people, directors in the room, and we're supposed to be working with them on their conducting technique. However, they have nobody to direct except each other, and there are no songs in common. There's no chorus to direct, so to speak, and so there's a real layer of a real feeling of artificiality about the environment. And it's not that we can't do anything, and not that we can't, make improvements and look for things that can be developed and changed. But just feeling like that may not be the best environment in which to work on people's hand skills, just with it being inauthentic. The second thing that we looked at was our non-Harmony University programs, and the first one we talked about was CDWI. And Scott, are you and Russell both familiar with CDWIs?
I've heard of it.
And Russell?
Yeah, I am, Larry. I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done one.
This is Russell. Is it Russ or Russell?
Either one is fine.
Okay.
Russell's, we've met many times at Harmony U, Larry.
Okay, yeah, I needed your last name, Sketchley, yeah. You're Nova Scotia, right?
That's the one.
Oops, I think we stepped on each other there.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that is me from Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Okay, good. I could almost recognize your voice.
Yeah.
So the CDWI program is a real good intermediate step, which is where we get 5 directors together in front of a lab chorus, and we spend the morning with just basically some head time, just talking about what it means to be a director and why we're directing, and then in the afternoon we get in front of the lab chorus, and everybody has selected specific skills that they want to work on. And it's a much better environment because we're working with real live singers and a real live chorus that's used to singing together. And still, we only have usually one director who is actually familiar with the chorus and knows their repertoire. So again, oftentimes we end up working with polecats, which, although it's something that we can do, it does, again, create a kind of a layer of artificiality about it. Then the third program that we looked at is what we call our next level program, and which has nothing to do with the next level that Debbie and I do. That was, they actually came up with their next level name after us, so we got squatters' rights, but they call their program Next Level anyway. And the idea of next level is it isn't just a CDWI2. It's not an advanced CDWI or anything like that, but to have a trainer come in and actually view your entire chorus rehearsal and culture from beginning to end, and it's very holistic. It isn't just focused on the director. It isn't just focused on the singers. It's focused on music team and the atmosphere of the night, and even the place where you rehearse. Everything is on the table as far as analyzing it. And what they usually do is have folks record video a couple rehearsals to be sent to the trainer ahead of time, and then the trainer comes in and actually spends the night with the music team and the director going through a rehearsal, and then there's follow-up and debrief and so on. And we think that's a really awesome program. Because it is very authentic. It's working with the director and the music team in their home environment. And really, that's pretty much where we're at this point in time. That's pretty much what we have to offer. And so we spent quite a bit of time talking about what potential new things could we bring to the table. And that always raises the question of, well, we don't want to spend time and energy developing programs that people don't need. So my question to you folks tonight is, what is it that prevents you from getting the training or coaching that you feel that you really would like to get? What are your roadblocks?
Nothing standing in the way, huh?
Everybody still there?
Yep. Is this on?
I can jump in if nobody else wants to.
Please do.
Eric, I can see your lips move, but I don't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Just barely.
Yeah.
Russell, you said you wanted to contribute something. Go right ahead. I'm helping.
Okay, I didn't want to. I was the last one to join the call. I didn't want to be the first one jumping in on the conversation.
Go ahead.
One of the issues that we sort of our default problem that we have in Atlantic Canada is just where we are. It costs a lot more to bring someone here than it does to bring someone to a lot of the different places through New England or anything like that, just because of the cost of people getting here. So that is one of our limiting factors, and I don't know what the solution to that is, but it is a factor.
And so if that weren't an obstacle, what kind of training or coaching would you like to get that you currently can't?
I like what you were talking about with the next level, the idea of having somebody come in and spend a night at the chorus and give the whole music team feedback. That sounds great. Now, the chorus I used to be with did that, I want to say about 8 years ago, I'm guessing, with Paul Tamlin actually came in from Ontario and did a wonderful night with us. We had a fantastic night with him. But as I said, that was about 8 years ago, and a different chorus. And to be honest, I'm not sure how much of that is just an excuse on our part that we automatically assume it's going to be way too expensive, so we don't even look into it. But that is a reality.
Yep, I absolutely hear you on that, and finances is always an issue. One of the things that we had a lot of discussion about in Vegas was the idea of trying to set up some kind of cost sharing where we can offer these programs in a way that is reasonable for the local chapters. For example, right now Eric is working on putting together a CDWI in Montreal with Alan and 4 of the people on his music team, and flying in trainers, from Florida and so on, does get to be quite expensive. That was weird. And so we end up having haves and have-nots. And so one of the things that we discussed was the idea of being able to offer some of these programs at a flat rate, to be able to say it's going to cost the chapter $250 to do a CDWI, and it doesn't matter where those trainers are coming from. It doesn't matter where the CDWI is going to be, but to have a flat cost. And at the moment, of course, that's something that we don't really have control over, is the purse strings, but we can bring these suggestions to Marty and to the BHS and say, this is what we need in order to be successful, and he'll support anything that we can prove is going to be successful.
Well, I think, Larry, like you said, I think the Next Level program sounds like the most genuine. It's you in your environment with your chorus, knowing your songs, and in your place. So, kudos to the committee for shooting for something like that.
Yeah, the one thing that we see as a drawback with Next Level, and of course we're doing this very selfishly, but the one thing we see as a drawback for Next Level is that it is not director focused. It is looking at the entire culture, everything that happens. It's not a chorus coaching night. That's not the intent of it.
Right.
But it also is not necessarily a director coaching night either.
True. True, but you're helping directors find their role in all that?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, that really is part of the program. As the people. I mean, the director is, there are different structures that people use in setting up their chorus, and whether the director is a political position or not, or regardless of how it fits into the chapter's hierarchy, we have to admit that the beginning and end of the chorus night lies in the hands of the director.
Indeed. So Dan, thank you for joining us. I think Larry posed a question before you joined, which was, what are any obstacles that are keeping you from getting the support and being a director that you might need? Dan, I see you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. I had muted myself just kind of out of habit. That's a really good question. I think that, first of all, I want to say from Ned and from the society, I have way fewer than 0 complaints. I have been really always supported by anyone to whom any of either myself or any of my guys reached out. So so that's step one. I think what holds us back in terms of my chorus and me, I think thinking analytically about it, we're a small chorus and we get stuck. Creatively, I get stuck. Directorially and sort of administratively or politically, I get stuck. And there are sort of small town stories about why I get stuck. I get stuck because I'm sort of locking horns with this one guy, and but really it's like the small chorus is all like the names are different, but all the guys are the same, and the particular personalities change a little bit, but like if you go to the next room, there's a small chorus doing the exact same thing, stuck on the same things, and basically I have no complaints. I think Ned has been very supportive of us, and BHS has been very supportive of us, without exception.
And so at this point in time, you don't see that there are any real roadblocks to getting the help you need. You found pretty much that when you need help, you can get it.
Yes, I have found that. Yes, I have. And I think where I'm really stuck is not knowing the kinds of help that I need, not knowing what I don't know, and also having wonderful ideas available and yet not knowing how to implement them with the skills that I possess. But I think mostly with the guys that I have, and I think that's just a shallowness of bench problem that I think all of us in small choruses deal with at some level.
Yeah, I hear that, and so the question is, because we do have this kind of chasing the tail that goes on, of you're not sure what kind of help is available to be asked for, and the Course Director Development Committee in BHS is unaware of the kind of help that you need. So the real question is, if you could pick up a magic wand and say, here is what I'd like to have next week, what would that be?
Wow. Well, that's a question that we could probably talk about for the rest of an hour, and we'd have a great time. But I could throw in a couple of things. I would love to be better at writing successful choreo for the guys that I have. And some of those guys have neuropathy and they have limited range of motion, and so this is not an ambassador's kind of scenario at all. So learning from the greats is fruitful, but only to a point for us.
Yep.
So I would probably really benefit from learning, seeing examples, and also kind of learning, maybe going through a step-by-step process, or seeing some printed resources that people have developed about how to write choreo for a really humble, choreo-wise for a really humble group.
Right. You want it to be entertaining, and you want it to be visually stimulating, but you do not have guys who are going to be doing backflips and hat and cane routines.
Precisely. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing.
That would be great.
I have plenty more ideas, but I'd love to hear more people too, and I don't want to dominate here.
Basic choreo for directors, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, emphasis on the basic, but I mean at any level that was not, when your 200 guys come in the door next week, here's what you need to do with them. That hasn't really worked for us, even though it's inspiring, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That might be an effective class at something like Directors College Northeast.
Yeah.
Or Leadership Academy. Larry, do you know of any other opportunities for that?
Well, there is a choreo class on the books at Harmony University. And of course, Harmony University has the roadblock of you need to be able to take a week off from your life, and used to be going to Kansas to St. Joe, and now it's going to Nashville. But being able to take a week off from your life to immerse yourself in barbershop at Harmony University has always been a huge roadblock. If you folks are unaware of this, we are working very, very hard at developing Harmony University Online. And I just returned from a week in Nashville helping the video editor put the final touches on the Outstanding in Front program. But we're going to have a series of, I think it's 15 videos that are 15 to 30 minutes in length of each, which is going to deliver the entire Outstanding in Front program in a virtual environment, so that folks can take that without having to attend Harmony U.
Beautiful.
And the idea is eventually to have the entire Harmony U program docket available online as a remote learning opportunity. So that is in the works.
Estimated
That's
release date?
wonderful.
It is wonderful. Estimated release date, Larry?
I'm not sure what the estimated release date is at this point in time. The Don Rose is working on it. He's the new education guy there, and Jeremy, who's the video editor down there, Jeremy and I finished up all of the basic editing, and all he really needs to do is put tops and tails on it, put the intros and the outros, and then do some cleaning up on the just on some of the graphics and so on. I think the big issue they're struggling with right now is they're trying to find a way that and this is particularly important to Marty, is they're trying to find a way that they can make this available without giving away the store. And this was produced with member money, and so my opinion and Don's opinion is that this series should be made freely available to all Barbershop members. And then the question, and then it would be great to get exposure outside of Barbershop or outside of BHS into Sweet Adelines and into American Choral Directors Association and the National Association for Music Education. But again, we don't want to give away the store. So I think they're looking for a mechanism by which they could make this available to BHS members, have it protected somehow by member number, maybe have the links embedded in the members-only site, and then be able to monetize it for exterior sources as a way to make money to be able to produce more of the same thing. One of the things that we did talk about was making it freely available, and then just using the honor system of just putting it out there on YouTube and then putting a tagline on it that says, if you enjoy this video series and would like to see more of the same, please press the Donate Now button.
And you said you had maybe another one you wanted to bring up. Dan?
Oh, okay, sure. I have a lot. There are. Let me stammer for a moment.
actually, Dan, I want to. Can we just back up a moment? Because we began with this being better at doing small, successful choreo. I'd like to hear from Russell and Scott about what do they do with that. Where are you guys at? What do you have for resources?
You want to go first, Scott?
Can't hear you, Scott. Yeah, you muted, Scott. There you go.
There we go. There we go. I kept hitting the camera button, not the mute button. All right. I direct the Dover, New Hampshire chorus, and we're pretty nascent. And as far as choreo goes, the guys have always been casual. The chorus was formed with a casual atmosphere. They don't want anything too organized. So as far as getting stage presence, it's been difficult, even just to relax on stage and look like you're enjoying the show. So that's what I'm up against.
And as far as what you have for resources to draw upon to help make you successful at that, is this just something that you do?
Myself and my sole tenor try to loosen up everybody. And that's about it.
Okay.
Scott, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You're describing a situation that in some ways is a little bit like some of what I deal with on a weekly basis, which is, well, the culture of my chorus is such that this chorus doesn't really want that. And I sort of want to ask you to unpack that. Would you like for it to be different? Would you like what would you like? And so are you talking about a problem that you have that you'd like to solve, or are you talking about, well, this is what we are and who we are, and that's what we'd like to be?
Well, we're not into big production numbers anyway. I'm not into big production numbers. The chorus doesn't actually do an annual show. We don't produce anything ourselves. We do a lot of local town fairs. We do a fair amount of charity work. We do join with the Laconia Lakes Region gentlemen frequently and on their shows, and they're joining us in 2 weeks for one of ours. So big production numbers aren't our style. So it's not that I'm lacking choreo, it's just get the guys to loosen up and look like they're enjoying themselves on the risers.
What prevents them from, like, what's in your way for that? So, like, the class idea that I had might not be what you wanted. What's in the way for the project of loosening up on the risers?
Individual personalities.
And that's where I am too, is like we deal with not big structural problems. We like to think about the big structural problems, but we have individual personalities to, like, I don't know, that's what the problems look like. It's like, well, this guy in the third row.
Yeah, it's stoic New Englanders who just stand up on the stage and just sing their hearts out, but not really looking like they're into it.
Yeah, if I could put on a different hat for a moment, Debbie and I are currently working with the Natick chapter, who just returned to doing some competition recently, and they were faced with the same thing. They were our stand and sing chorus, and they were asking the same thing: is, you know, how can we put on a visual presentation without trying to bite off more than we can chew. And Debbie and I we sat down and drew out a couple of very gentle presentation things that they could do, and we began to implement it. And we had that guy in the third row who said, "I am smiling." You know, this is my smile. This is as much smile as you're going to get out of me. And then we had other guys who just did not feel comfortable at all, even just doing a sidestep. They just, you know, this isn't me. This isn't what I do. And you know, so that can be a tough nut to crack unless it is fun and engaging.
I would echo that too. I think we've all been there to some extent. The small chorus of stoic New Englanders who stand up like, what did one guy refer to it as, like chickens on a fence, and not want to move at all or even smile. And I've been there, and you're right, Larry. Fun and engaging, absolutely. And making it a safe culture to do that in is not something that happens in 1 week or in one night. It happens over time. It's a great segue to a book I was going to recommend tonight. So, Choral Charisma. If you've ever read Choral Charisma, let me flip to the next slide. Yes. Choral Charisma is by Tom Carter. One of the greatest books I've ever read in my professional life. It talks about building a safe environment to be expressive in your singing. And it's written sort of from the standpoint of a high school music teacher, but he references Barbershop quite a bit. If you go to his website, choralcharisma.com, he's even got a Barbershop menu there, and talks about how this affects our style and what we do. So it might be worth a look just to go to the website, pick up the book if you like it. It really was a paradigm shift for me when I first read it to think about, first you've got to build a place where this is safe to do. And if you think about our typical choruses, it's a room full of stoic New Englanders who may not, and men, you know, who may not feel necessarily comfortable sharing their feelings. So that may be an obstacle, right? So there's that, and then from there you talk about the music, and he's got lots of great exercises in there for you and for your choir. So I highly recommend that book, Choral Charisma, as a good starting place.
I think I've coined the phrase stoic New Englander.
So, Larry, didn't mean to interject.
No, that's quite all right. I think that's absolutely great. and like you said, it is about creating that safe environment. And I loved hearing Scott just talking about the fact that that they begin the night by doing some loosening up, trying to loosen the guys up, trying to get them to smile, trying to get them to joke or laugh. And sometimes it's a tightrope that we can walk as directors, where we want to be in control, but if we're too much in control, then we staunch any enthusiasm that comes out of our men. You know, it really is not that. Working with a group of New England barbershoppers isn't that much different than working with a group of junior high students, in that you can't get them to stop and shut up when you want them to, but when they sing, you can't get them to move.
Very true.
How about Russell? What do you do for choreo? You're not a big group either, are you? Or
No, I don't have any stoic New Englanders at all, but I can give you a whole bunch of stoic Atlantic Canadians who are every bit as, you know, I have a couple baritones who's like, this is wildly elated, and it's also devastatedly sad. And it's the same
expression, yeah.
And I don't mean when they're singing. I mean always.
Yeah.
Seriously, there's one I don't think I've ever seen him crack a smile, even when he's telling you a joke, or you know, it's just the way they are. But we have I've had a small chorus for quite a while, but we just merged two choruses, so we now have 30 guys or so on the risers most nights, which is, you know, phenomenal for both our choruses. Usually we've been, you know, if we had 18 guys at it, was fantastic, but now it's 30, so it's a little bigger, but it's still very much a small chorus mentality, because we have two small choruses that just got together, so everybody's still thinking in terms of small chorus. And choreo and facial expressions are not necessarily way up there on most people's lists. We do have 3 guys whose age ends in teen, however, who are really exciting to have, and I want to get them some opportunities to do something and move a bit and try to get some of the other guys going with them. But it's hard to do. We have a few other new guys who are in their 30s, 40s, so again, significantly younger than most of our chorus. But and they seem to be a bit more interested in, you know, at least doing this while they're singing, if not doing the aforementioned backflips and hat and cane routines. They're at least moving, which is a good thing. But you know, it's hard to get them to do things. One resource we do have, who lives only an hour's drive away, is Teresa Weatherby, when she's available, which is not terribly often, because she's, you know, in New Zealand more often than she is an hour away. But anyway, we have on occasion tried to get Teresa out, but the other problem we have is, I mean, even before we get to the choreo, could you learn your words and notes before we start throwing other stuff at you? So, you know, but we're getting to that part where the guys are starting to learn their music a little faster, so that's good.
Yeah, so I think the question, though, comes back to when it's time, when you just say, okay, it's time for us to add some body presentation to this song. How do you figure out what moves you can do that are appropriate, that and that work? Where do you is this something that you do on your own, Russell, or do you? Teresa is kind of a big time choreographer, isn't she? And she does huge, complicated packages usually. Do you find that can she provide you with something that's simple?
Yeah, she can, because when we got her up last year, this was one of those cases where the guys in one song really hadn't learned it yet, so she could do nothing with it. But with the other song, she kept it really simple, because, you know, one quick look at the 16 guys who were on the risers, and very fast calculation realized the average age probably started with 7. She didn't do a whole lot of stuff with it. She kept it nice and simple, and let's just sort of lean in this direction at that point and lean in this direction at that point, and that was almost all we did on the song. But she can do that. But you're right, she's more of a big production kind of person. But
so it isn't necessarily a waste of time then to go to a choreographer and say, this is my group, this is what I'm dealing with, here is the song, what can we do? And if somebody went to somebody like Teresa and asked for that, what would you be looking at to spend to make something like that happen?
You asking me or everybody? I'm
asking you, Russell.
Oh, okay. Well, with Teresa, we know it's not horribly expensive because she's so local. I said local, not loco, but although in Teresa's case, never mind. I think she only charged us, I don't remember what it was, but we're not looking to spend a lot. If we're spending $150 on an evening, for us, that's kind of a lot of money. But obviously, if you're bringing somebody in from out of town, you have to expect to spend way more than that. But it is, like I said before, getting people here is usually pretty expensive.
Is it possible to have someone like Teresa put together a presentation package without actually doing a live visit? Is it possible to contact them, send them the song, send them a video of the chorus singing it, and just say, we would like you to put together a really simple written package that we could implement ourselves?
That's a great question. Is it possible to do that? Because that'd be great. I particularly, like you said, with sending a video first so that they know what they're working with. Because if you just sent it blind and said, here's the song, give us some choreo, they're going to arrange it for, I think Dan mentioned ambassadors. That's who they'll arrange it for, and that's not us.
No.
But
you would want to have a conversation with whoever's doing it for you. You'd want to have a conversation with them first about the skill level required, but absolutely. I've done that before with my Concord coachman, and it worked out great. Didn't have to have a visit at all, and he sent us a video of himself doing the moves, and it worked out pretty well. So yeah, I would explore that with whoever you want to talk to.
Oh yeah, sounds good. Who was it you said you used?
Oh, it was years ago. Gary Wolf.
Gary Walsh. Okay.
Wolf. W-U-L-F.
Yeah, Gary Wolf. Okay.
And so it sounds like something that might be very helpful in this area is simply for us to try to provide a list of resources, a list of names and contact information of people who can do this kind of gentle choreography and have it not cost an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to coin that term, gentle choreo.
Already written it down.
I was going to say that was a good term.
And of course, I think we all can nod our heads and say choreography isn't going to do you a bit of good if it's delivered with a deadpan expression. And so it always begins with a face.
Mm.
My chorus actually got sick of hearing me bug them about their faces, so they made me a sign to wear around my neck that said face. So I would stop saying it.
I was just going to say how many of us have said to our choruses over and over again, we need more face.
Good. I think we brought that around to a really good place where we actually even have an agenda item of we have an action item that we can follow up on of just trying to get names and contact information of people who are available to do choreography stuff. Okay, you want to go to the next thing, Dan?
Sure. I'd love to. So I think all of us were talking a little bit about well, Russell, so you were telling this story about your new double chorus, and you said something that I found very interesting, which I think is my problem. And I wonder, Scott, I don't know anything about your chorus, but I wonder if it might be something that you're dealing with too, which is that our problem isn't the number of guys. Our problem is that we are thinking like a small chorus. I think that's our problem. My guys think that their problem is the number of guys, and I don't think that's true. So I guess, Russell, a question for you would be, what do you feel, because you see you're piloting, steering a different ship, so what do you think is the shift that needs to happen? And or if any of us has been through that growth successfully, what is the shift that needs to happen?
That's a great question. And I wish I had a great answer, but we're sort of feeling our way through it. Part of it is because, I think part of it is it wasn't sort of a natural growth. It was, we took two small choruses, put them together. So it's like overnight we were doubled in size. Not quite, but kind of like that. And we're right now trying to establish a new chorus culture, because of course every chorus has their own culture. So we had two different choruses with two different cultures and two different directors and two different music teams and everything else, and now we've brought them all together. And for the most part, it's going really, really well. But like I said, we're still thinking, we're thinking like, I'm trying to think of a good example of where we're still thinking small, because I know we are, and there are times I can tell that we're still thinking like we've only got 2 or 3 tenors, and we've got like 7 tenors now, which is bigger than 3 of our former sections in our old chorus. But I mean, combined, if we had 7 tenors, basses, and baritones on the same night, that was great. Now we've got 7 tenors. Which is a whole different feel too for singing. Even there are times I have to say, I've never said this sentence before, but can we have less tenor? Yeah, never had to say that. But it's just we often where we've been a small chorus, and I can't speak too much for the other chorus, but we've always sort of gone into, whether it's a contest or gone into a show or gone into any preparation for anything, just with the idea that, okay, we know we're small, we know we're not going to be we're not going to have as big a sound as some other choruses, we're not going to sound as good as some of these other guys, and that's just sort of the immediate mindset. Because we're small, we cannot. And we need to get away from that kind of thinking. I don't know the answer to how, but we need to get away from it.
Larry, what are your thoughts? I know what I might say, but I want you to chime in first.
Well, I was fortunate enough to after being away from Barbershop for almost a decade, working on my master's in computer science and so on, I was fortunate enough to rejoin the Portland Downeasters at a time when they were putting maybe 8 to 13 guys in chairs on the cafeteria stage to learn some Christmas carols, and that was what the group was. It was this. It had dwindled down to this core of the guys who just always did it because this is what they do, and they were the dozen guys who would show up when they could, and then I was able to be with them and watch the Downeasters as they grew from there and began building all the way to their international performance in Philadelphia. And what an exciting time that was. And I think the real turning point was that myself and a couple of other enthusiastic people rejoined, and began taking things out of the director's hands, basically, allowing the director to direct, but but taking the director out of being the be-all, end-all of the entire night. And I think we've seen a number of similar situations happen with choruses that we've with directors that we've spoken to at Harmony University, where they say one of the things that really changed the way their group operated was when they learned to step to the side and allow other people to get in front and begin to develop their skills. And no chorus is too small to not have, and no chorus is too large to not have at least 25% of the guys who are members out in front doing something with the group at some point during the night. And developing leadership and giving guys a reason to come, not just to stand and sing, but to give them buy-in to the process of how the night is going to go, and how the chorus is going to sing and perform. We spend a lot of time talking about this in the leadership class at Harmony University. Everybody has an opinion, and just allowing any Joe Barbershop member to give them a checklist of written things, to hand them a clipboard and say, we're going to sing through this song, would you go out front, listen and watch and write down your thoughts? Even small buy-in like that can begin to generate new enthusiasm and really get people re-engaged in the process.
It's a really neat idea, and coming from someone, I don't know how many of you guys are trained in being a conductor, but I have a degree in music ed, and I learned how to be a conductor. And when I first came into Barbershop, I thought I was supposed to be the end all and be all of the night. What is this? What's a music team? What are we talking about? So that's a wonderful idea that you just shared, Larry, and I want there to be another opportunity for directors to realize that. Is there a class? Is there something at HU where people like me can learn to not do everything?
At Harmony University, it is the leadership class, and Steve Tramack and I teach that. It's a long class. It is. I think we do it 3 hours on 3 nights, so it's a 9-hour curriculum that we work through, and we never have time to finish. We never get all the material in that we want to get in, and so there is no reason. I think that Steve Tramack has done a Reader's Digest version of that at Harmony College Northeast, but there's no reason why that couldn't be a regular thing at HCNE, as long as there was the attendance to support it. And that's always the other thing is, you give too many offerings at HCNE and then everything looks like it's sparse.
I think that would be a wonderful opportunity. How ironic that the leadership class is about taking things away from us and giving it to other people, right?
Yeah, it's actually a Paul Tamblyn model where he wrote a very short paper called "How to Work Less and Direct Happily Ever After," and that's what was fleshed out into a good, solid 3-hour segment of the Harmony University leadership class. And actually, I guess I want to just take a really quick detour just about HCNE. And I just would like to throw out something that's kind of a pet peeve or soapbox thing of mine. Is I find that oftentimes a lot of what happens at these schools is they find people who are willing to teach, and then they say, what is it that you would like to teach? And then a class list is put together with absolutely no buy-in from the people who are going to be attending. And this is what I call what we used to see in school all the time, what I used to call just in case in service. is you're going to come here and you're going to take this class and you're going to learn this thing just in case you might ever need it. And oftentimes what happens is people have a great day, but then they go home, they have no way to immediately apply it, and it disappears. And I think that one thing that's just so much more important is what I prefer to call just-in-time in-service, which is giving people what they need when they need it right now. And it would be so great to not develop a list of directing classes for HCNE, but rather to reach out to the directors and say, what do you want to learn? Who can we get here, and what do you want to learn from them? So that's my little detour.
Good, thank you. I think we've discovered 2 tonight.
So where are we at?
Dan submitted a chat here. Paul Tamlin, T-A-M-L, is it L-I-N?
T-A-M-B-L-Y-N, I think. Russell, is that right?
I believe that's right, yeah.
T-A-M-B-L-Y-N. And unfortunately, he was a wonderful, wonderful man, and unfortunately he passed away from cancer, I think, 1.5 years ago. Might have been 2 years.
Might have been 2, yeah. Yeah, actually, I took the leadership class from Paul many years ago now, but you're right, what a beautiful person he was.
Is the paper he wrote available?
I think I probably check with Steve Tramack on that. I bet he has a lot of Paul's stuff in his files.
Steve Tramack is just a wonderful guy.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah. Chuck Green, another wonderful guy who also is no longer with us. I took his compellingly attractive chapter meetings class a couple, 3 years ago, I guess. He had a nice list of types of jobs at different levels of skill and different levels of buy-in that you can give people during rehearsal, and I'm sort of drawn to go back to those. He called them hats. You know, you can put on a very small hat or a big hat, and so you can be a watcher or a listener, and that's kind of the entry level. And then there's all the way up to like the VP of music, or the assistant director. I have 2 wonderful assistant directors that I'm terrible at utilizing. But I'd love to know a little better about how to get the fairly small number of guys that I have, how to get them from the watcher-listener or the guy who has a loud opinion during rehearsal and blurts it out, which is kind of where some of them live right now. They're definitely qualified for that job. They into the levels where they can really contribute at a higher level of group functionality or being part of a more functioning system.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and it really does revolve around identifying what people's skills are, really getting to know them and getting to know what their skills are, and then encouraging them to go to trainings, encouraging them to go to HCNE to help hone their skills. But more importantly is once you've identified that somebody is passionate about something, is to literally just step out of the way and give them an opportunity to do it. Well, I think one of the things that's and Eric kind of alluded to this as well, is we direct chapters because by definition, we're the most qualified person in the group to do it. If there were somebody more qualified to do the job we're doing, then we'd probably let them do that. And when we're in that position, when it comes time to give somebody else a try and give them a chance to do it, one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, if I'm the most qualified individual to do any of this, why in my right mind would I ever let anybody else who is less qualified get in front of the group and try it? And I think the answer to that is the only way that we gained our skills was through life experience, was through making mistakes and being in front and trying it and doing it. And so being able to give people very small bite-size experiences that you know they can be successful at, to give someone 5 minutes to do this, and then afterwards to meet with them afterwards and talk about what went well and what could be done better the next time, but literally just to get out of the way and let them do it. If you've got a guy on on the risers who is continually blurting out about things being out of tune, then give him a sheet of music and get him out in front with a clipboard and ask him to circle every chord that's out of tune, and then ask him to try to figure out why.
That's good. I used to have a guy that loved to talk about how things were out of tune, and then I started asking him why.
And so he's got to get out front, and he's got to listen, and he's got to turn on his ears, and then you can meet with him afterwards, and you can say, this chord is out of tune because the basses are out of tune, you know. And so I'll schedule a time for him to work on that with the basses for 5 minutes, and just see if he can get the basses to sing where he thinks it's gonna fix it, and then find out if it fixes it or not. Find out if he does actually have that skill, and if he can become a contributing member in that way.
Thank you.
It's risky.
Just wanted to
Can I jump in with something?
1 second.
Sorry,
I wanted to quick point out that we were abruptly interrupted last month at the 1 hour mark, and if that does happen, I'll send you guys another link, and we can keep the party going. Okay?
Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Dan, you mentioned something about having two great assistant directors that you're not good at utilizing. The chorus I used to sing with, where I was the assistant director, and this is where I sort of started being out front. The director there was fantastic with the two assistant directors he had, and I've tried to be as fantastic, and so far I'm not quite succeeding, but I'm working on getting there with our assistant director now. He was absolutely determined that every week we would each direct at least 2 songs. Even if that's all we did, every week we were going to direct at least 2 songs. Not the same song every week. He didn't say, okay, these are your 2 songs and these are your 2 songs, and that's how the way it's going to be. Just whatever the week was, or whatever the 2 songs were that week, it would just be, okay, get up there, these are your 2 songs this week. And then give feedback. So I've been trying to do that lately. When we combined our 2 choruses, we have co-directors now, so I'm a co-director. But the other chorus had a young guy who's now our assistant director. He was the assistant director of the other chorus. And I've been trying to do that the last few weeks, even just during the warm-up. Hey, direct a polecat. That was cool. Direct a polecat, and then I just give him some feedback on something. Like I won't try to overwhelm him with too much, because he's really, really just learning. He has no musical training at all, but he's very keen and very eager to learn. So just give him one thing to work on, and then he comes back the next week and he's doing that a little bit better, and then I can give him something else to work on. I just want to encourage you to try to work with your assistant directors, because that is how they're going to grow, but it's also how you're going to grow as a teacher, and bringing other people along.
And I'd like to expand on that just a little bit and say you can also, especially in a small group, you can be cautious about the assistant director role as far as that being a label. And one of the things that we encourage is not just, quote, directing, but song leading, is every single person who is in the chorus can come out and lead a song. They can start people up and they can stop them, and they can get an idea of what it's like to be out front. So think of the term, would you be the song leader tonight? If you don't have an assistant director, get everybody out front and get them to get somebody different every week to lead a song.
That was actually something that Chuck Green did in his Compellingly Attractive chapter meetings, with Keep the Whole World Singing, having somebody different direct it at the end of every night and give them a chance, just like Larry said, just to feel. And the nice thing with that song is nobody actually follows the director anyway. So.
But it gives them a chance to be out front. Yeah, Portland Downeasters does that with their raffle. Whoever wins whoever pulls the ticket for the 50-50 that night is the person who gets to direct Keep the Whole World Singing.
Hear the sounds of our keyboards. I guess we're having a productive conversation if we all want to take notes. That's great.
So are we good? Is that a wrap?
Well, I think we got
Well,
some
I have a lot of
more classes at Harmony College Northeast. And someone else tried to say something there. I stepped on you. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I just said I have a lot of good homework. That's all.
Good, yeah. And please know that Larry and I are both here for you as a resource. If you should ever have even just a question about anything, who do I go to? Yeah. Who do I go to for this, or who's an idea for this, or whatever? We're all here for you.
Wow.
Don't feel that you're isolated.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Absolutely.
And when are you doing this again, Eric?
What a lovely segue to my next thing. Let's see. Someone asked me last time. I just wanted to quick point out that they asked about the Music Educator's Guide before I get to next month's date. Somebody asked me if the Music Educator's packet was still available, and it indeed is. If you go to the barbershop.org, can you see my screen okay, my website?
Yes.
Okay. Under Education, Educator Resources, there it is, Educator's Guide to Barbershop. And an educator can fill out the form there. I'll scroll up slowly so it syncs with you guys. Songbook and accompanying CD, there it all is there. Little SoundCloud learning tracks. And there's the form that they can fill out to get one in the mail. Larry, anything else you want to add on to that?
Nope.
Good. Just wanted to point out that was still out there. I knew it was prior, just didn't know it lived online. That's great. Great, great. So coming up next month, we have the lovely and talented Kirk Young. Going to talk about some contest and judging type stuff with us directors. It brings a wealth of knowledge to our conversation as a director himself and a school music teacher. In April, we have Adam Scott, who, as you know, was at the Leadership Academy, works for the Society, great musician and director in his own right, and teacher of directors. And in May, we have Terry Ludwig, who's the director of the Sounds of Illinois from Bloomington. Terry's going to be on our staff at Directors College Northeast this summer, talking about his philosophy of how what's the way we were talking about it, the philosophy that you don't have to be, super duper auditioned and exclusive to be a wonderful top-notch chorus. And Terry and I share a lot of our philosophical background. So I want to have Terry here in May so that you get a taste of what he's going to talk about at Directors College too. Any other comments or anything before we go? Terrific. Well, Larry, we've got some great notes here. I'm going to type them all out and summarize them for those who weren't fortunate enough to be here. And I appreciate your time and your energy and all that you're doing on the Chorus Director Committee. And keep up the great work.
Do you have some nice parting gifts for me backstage?
Yes. They are, however, backstage in New Hampshire, so I'll wait up for you.